Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we are back with a Ezreal top build. And today we're going to be talking about Death's Dance on Ezreal. Now I'm not going to lie, straight off the bat, I think that this makes no sense. Now this is kind of why I have this top build series where I try to go over like the top builds of certain champions and try to kind of explain why certain people are taking certain runes. Like for example, on one of the recent videos we talked about Samira, who was going for Stormrazor, and a lot of the top Samiras did that. And at first I kind of thought it didn't really make sense, and then I kind of like realized why like that was the case. Now I still don't really like that build personally, but I do just cover it for you guys to just know that this build exists and things like that. So it's kind of a similar concept with this one, with Ezreal, where I do want to cover this particular build with the Death's Dance. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I really think it doesn't make sense to go Death's Dance on Ezreal because Death's Dance, firstly, let's just talk about Death's Dance first. So what does it do? It gives you AD, a little bit of AD, which is alright, armor, which, okay, I guess is nice, and ability haste, which is great for Ezreal. When you kill a champion, or when you get a takedown, you get 12% of your max health, which is great, of course, if you can get takedowns. And it is like this, it does have this anti-burst component, the Cauterize, where when you take physical damage, it will be dealt to you over 3 seconds as true damage, but instead of 35% for melee champions, ranged champions only get 15% of this effect. So this makes Death's Dance a generally not so good item on ranged champions. So that's kind of why I think it doesn't really quite make sense for Ezreal to build this item. And furthermore, Ezreal is kind of one of the safest ADCs, so you shouldn't really be getting attacked all that much anyways, because you should be far away in the backline just blasting people with your Qs and things like that. So I will have to say that honestly, I didn't really understand that much. I played it for a couple of matches, and in this one, I did play it as well. We did have quite heavy physical damage, like in the form of Lee Sin and Draven on this particular game, so I did try my best to see how good this rune works, but I have to be honest, this item works, but I have to be honest, I don't really think it's that great. But we're gonna take a look at it, how it works in the gameplay anyways. So we're gonna talk about the rest of the build first. Now obviously Gladness Greaves first item, early AD and Omnivamp, gives Ezreal a pretty decent laning phase, so you want to rush this first. Mana Moon, of course, for the mana, as well as getting additional damage on your spells and auto attacks later on. Triforce, really nice stats. Proccing Spellblade with your Q is, just really good for you. And here you can go either for the Bork, which of course is a really good anti-tank item, which I did go for in this game because there was a tanky Maokai on the enemy team. Or you can go for Riftmaker here, which is in general just a better item if you're not playing into tanks. Gives you more like Omnivamp, gives you the true damage on your passive, and just, generally good stats like that. And then, as we covered the Death's Dance already, and we have Seralda's Grudge for the armor penetration as well as the slow. Now, of course, the last 3 items can be swapped around in terms of order, so it could be something like this, it could be something like this, could be something like this even. And of course, taking into account the Bork as well, you could even swap out to something like this, for example. So a lot of kind of build freedom when it comes to like the last 3 items, because only the first 2 items are really core in Ezreal. In terms of the runes, you can go for Conqueror, which is a more consistent or in general rune, but PTA is going to give you a lot stronger laning phase. Now, in my game, I'm against a Draven Maokai, so no point going for PTA when we're not going to win against Draven in lane anyway. But in some lanes that you can bully, PTA can actually be good to get an early advantage in the lane and snowball off of that. And Brutal, of course, because you can proc it on your Q and you auto-attack quite a bit. Giant Slayer in general gives you the best value. And here we have Bloodline for more healing, and we have Bone Plating for the anti-burst. You don't really need Hex Splash since you are, a very mobile champion already. And of course we have Flash together with Exhaust for the spells. Now let's jump into talking about our gameplay. Okay, so now we're going to look at the gameplay for this particular build of Ezreal, and as I mentioned, I technically don't really fully support this build, but we'll see how it goes. And also guys, you guys probably would have noticed by now that we're no longer doing the daily videos, we're kind of doing the alternate day videos now, especially towards the end of a patch. Like on the D patches nowadays, we generally don't produce as much content because obviously when the next patch comes out, which in this case is 5.2, there's going to be a lot of changes, so generally the builds and the stuff that I cover in the D patches are going to be, a little bit less relevant. And now D patches are basically going to be a permanent thing because there's only going to be 4 major updates, after every 3 months of the year. So with every update, you basically get like a new rank season and like new big changes. Of course, in the next one, the preview already came out quite some time ago, so you're going to get, of course, the 2 new Rift Heralds, the new T-Hex thing that you can ride when you kill Baron, along with Hex Gates and all of the additional changes. So with all of those big changes, generally a lot of things will change. Also, of course, the things like light and ruin items are no longer going to be a thing, so ADC builds might change quite drastically, because one of the reasons why IE was such a popular item, both as a first, second, and third item, is because of the increased crit damage that it gave. There was a time before the light and ruin items that IE kind of started leaving builds just because it wasn't giving enough damage, especially for the cost, and a lot of other items were simply just better. So we could always land up back in a world where IE is not an ideal item for ADCs anymore. So yeah. Anyways, let's talk a little bit more about Ezreal and the gameplay. So you can see this is a pretty long game, just based on the length of this video. So here against the Draven Maokai, and if you guys recall, in our previous video, we just played Draven Maokai ourselves, so we know what this lane can do. Alright, so here we are trying to be careful not to get engaged on my Maokai. This Maokai has Aftershock instead of Glacial, which does make him a lot more tanky. However, it does mean that it's a little bit easier to escape his engages and things like that. Now somehow we have a party in the lane with a random 4v4 at 2 minutes into the game, in our lane. But thankfully, we don't die. Nothing too much really happens. Now Maokai Lee Sin coming back in. Nami gets engaged on and kind of shoved back into the enemy team. However, Lee Sin commits really hard for the kill and ends up tanking 2 tower shots, which leads to me getting the kill onto him. So overall, it's a support for jungle trade, which is definitely a trade that you would take any day of the week, particularly because Lee Sin flashed as well. So I think that it was a horrible trade and horrible decision by the Lee, but it is what it is. He does decide to do that, and yeah. So here I'm just using ult to wave clear because I don't want them to shove in their wave under my tower, simply because there is a decent likelihood that Maokai can just engage on me under tower and Draven can kill me. If they're coordinated enough, they can definitely do that. So kind of just want to remove the possibility of that. So on our first base, we are able to get the Greaves as well as getting the tier to begin stacking it. So yeah, obviously Maokai Draven is very strong in lane. Draven even has Ignite, so they are very, very strong in lane, and we definitely don't want to be messing around too much with them. We just want to land some poke, something like what we're trying to do here, and just be happy with it. Obviously, we're not going to be winning any kind of damage battles against Draven, and Maokai, of course, really tanky, so really difficult to get rid of him. Nia and Nami do have very good poke though, so our main goal of the lane is simply to just poke champions out, of course being the Maokai and Draven, and try to not engage in any all-ins, because they kind of will win the all-in in the long run, unless I manage to full stack my Conqueror onto Maokai before they actually manage to really get off, before Draven gets off any significant damage on me, but the likelihood of that is extremely low. So here Maokai with a pretty good ult comes from out of vision. I'm able to just hop out of the way, but Nami does get caught, gets CC'd by Maokai, and has really nowhere to run. Maokai even pops the exhaust for good measure, just to prevent Nami from escaping by lowering her movement speed. Don't think that exhaust is really necessary, but he does use it regardless, so Nami is not getting out. Draven as a result does get a cash in, which is not very ideal. Now here for some reason my E didn't auto-target to the Maokai. He must have been out of range. Auto-targets to the minion instead, so we don't actually end up disrupting his back. Here Lee Sin goes in on me for some reason. I exhaust him. He's taking a lot of damage, and I actually misfire the True Shot Barrage by just a little bit. If I aimed it a little bit better, there would have been another kill for me. So this Lee Sin, definitely not the most skilled player. Now Maokai gets to engage on me, but as you guys can see here, Draven is not actually in range to follow up that engage, so I looked like I was in pretty deep trouble, which I kind of thought I was, but then I realized that Draven is not in the position to hit me, so I was actually fine. Now here I really wanted to recall, but Dragon is up, and I kind of have to help out with the Dragon here. We don't know where the enemy jungler is at all, and here he comes in and gets the steal, and now a huge fight is breaking out. I'm standing behind my teammates so I don't get rooted. Maokai is taking a chunk of damage, does go back in, gets the healing from the passive. Lee Sin and Draven are pretty low as well, and so is Zoe. All of them are 1 HP. I'm also 1 HP for that matter. I managed to arc and shift away to safety and pick up the kill on Zoe. Lee Sin's coming back in for some reason, and Kill is now here to join the fray. Gets the kill onto Lee. I get the True Shot Barrage across Draven and Maokai, and eventually we are able to pick up the kills, in the sense that Kale got a triple kill, and that's kind of unfortunate that we didn't get more kills there, because Kale is not doing very well at all. You can see that even after she just got those 3 kills, she still has less gold than me, and she has been doing really badly in lane against the Gragas. After the triple kill, she's still 1k gold down on the Gragas. Now just think about that. Means she has been denied so much CS, and Gragas has gone like so many plays that even with a triple kill, he's still 1k gold ahead of her. So that is kind of a disaster, but I guess the triple kill will help her get back into the game just a little bit. Now here I have a really big wave. So Draven really does not... if I was the Draven, I wouldn't want to fight in that wave, because that wave is going to do a lot of damage, but either which way, I just want to be a little bit careful here, since I'm pretty overextended, and I don't really want to give Draven a kill, by being overextended and getting caught out. So I'm just gonna kind of play it safe and just back on off, not try to pick a fight with him. Although I do have exhaust and he has ignite, so I probably, in that huge minion wave, I believe I have a decent chance of actually winning that 1v1 inside the minion wave. So we'll have to see about that. So here, I managed to get the True Shot Barrage onto Lee Sin. Lee Sin does get the Smite to restore his health. Maokai gets hit by me with the Q and does end up going down. Now it's kind of a full-on fight happening here. I'm going to Arcane Shift over the wall, finish off this Draven. And Kill should be able to finish off the Zoe here. And yeah, she does almost get outplayed by the Zoe. Actually, she does end up dying to the Zoe eventually, but they do indeed manage to pick up the kill. So here in the meanwhile, I'm just farming tower plates, or a tower plate at the minimum, and I'm going to now recall to spend my gold. Gragas nearly interrupts it, but I'm finally able to recall, pick up my Manamune, as well as getting the components for Triforce. Of course, being sure to grab the Sheen item first. That being the item that gives you the most damage and value as an item component, because of being able to proc on your Q. So here Minion Wave has crashed in the tower, just clearing it out just a little bit. Of course, one of Ezreal's main weaknesses is wave clear. He's very single target and doesn't really have too much wave clear. Nami hits a nice chain CC onto the both of them. I tried to jump over the Maokai roots, which I didn't know if it would work, but turns out it does not work at all. And in the long fight, as we know, Draven does end up winning against me, despite the fact that I have Conqueror and he has PTA. Yeah, I mean, Maokai is too tanky and Draven does too much damage, so we definitely don't win those kind of fights. So despite the fact that I'm 4-1 and 4, I still end up dying to Draven, and he does get my shutdown, so that's not very ideal. Now Shyvana is now kind of stuck on the tower against 3 people, so she is going to go down as well. Bran is going to be the next challenger. Yeah, Lee Sin kicks Nami into Bran, gets a Q onto the Bran, follows it up, and has to flash back out. I don't know why Lee Sin is taking these Qs. That simply isn't good. Now Zoe here tanks a ton of damage from the tower. Maokai and Zoe both relatively low. I try to snipe out the Zoe with a ulti, but I barely end up missing her. Now Kill is 1v1ing the Lee Sin in the jungle. Don't think she wins that one though. And Lee Sin is trying to back off. Nami gets engaged on by Maokai. I'm just hopping away. Nami tries to survive, gets the ult off before she dies. I'm flashing forward trying to finish off the Maokai. Maokai survives for a long time though, and eventually I switch focus to Draven to get rid of their DPS first, and then turn my attention back to Maokai to kill him. I think it was a mistake, honestly, Arcane shifting in on Maokai, because my logic was I needed that damage to kill him, but what ended up actually happening was he ended up attacking me with his auto attack and healing off of that attack on me, which really meant that I actually ended up helping him and making him survive longer than I could have. If I just maintained my distance and auto attacked him and landed Q, I would have definitely done more damage than what I ended up doing overall. Next dragon is up, so we are going to try to do it. Now Shyvana uses a sweeper but doesn't actually clear the ward, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of the sweeper. Now Lee Sin once again comes in, gets the steal, is going to die for it though. But yeah, this Shyvana is a horrible smiter. 2 out of 2 smites lost. However, it does look like we're winning the fight. Maokai is pretty low, but I'm going to have to kite away because the rest of the cavalry is arriving. I can see I'm taking a bunch of damage and my whole team basically ends up dying at this point. So I'm going to have to run for the hills and recuperate in the base. So now taking stock of the game, my team is getting spanked by the enemy team. Like if we take a look lane by lane, Kale has a like almost 2k gold deficit. Shyvana has a 1k gold deficit, and Bran has like a near 4k gold deficit. Like Zoe is nearly double of Bran's gold. Now I'm behind Draven by 1k gold because Draven has been getting all those cash-ins, and that's kind of how Draven works. and Maokai is 2k gold ahead of the Nami. So as a collective, my team is like 10k gold behind, which is kind of horrible. Like 10k gold behind in 10 minutes is not the kind of situation you want to be in. Now, if you just take a look at my team, Brand is kind of useless for now. Maybe when he gets some items, he can be a little bit of a glass cannon. Shyvana also kind of useless for now. I mean, honestly, Kayle is kind of useless at this point as well. She probably will either be useless all the way or maybe only be useful in a circumstance where she is able to get like 3 items. Now here, Lee Sin overcommits for a kill again. I managed to finish him off, but unfortunately the Draven ulti is able to actually pick up the Nami, which is not really good. So here again, I just True Shot Barrage to land a little bit of damage onto Draven. Draven flashes forward, is on the chase. Now I'm flashing away because I don't want Maokai to engage on me, because if he does, Draven pretty much almost guaranteed gets the kill onto me. So I don't really want to be a victim of that. Therefore, I'm going to recall and just restore my health. So in this game, I actually went for the Blade of the Rune King because there is a Maokai who has built Heartsteel in this match. So and he is really tanky. So I do think that it is quite crucial to get the Blade of the Rune King to kind of deal with the Maokai, because otherwise Maokai is going to be really difficult to kill, and we definitely don't want that to be the case. I mean, even with the Blade of the Rune King, he's not the easiest to kill even so. So you can only imagine that without the Blade of the Rune King, it's going to be a complete disaster. So now we are just going to head over to top lane to clear out this wave as usual, trying our best to maintain our farm. For some reason, our whole team is like top side when Baron is up, which is no good. At least they're not showing on vision, so the enemy team doesn't actually know that we're all on top side. Because if they did, and if I was the enemy team, I would be rushing the Baron right now. In fact, Shyvana, who's our jungler, should not be showing on vision on the opposite side of Baron, because this means that they can do Baron. Now, thankfully, the enemy team does not do that, and instead Lee Sin and Draven are kind of going to the Shyvana lane. I spot the remnants of the Maokai out, so I'm just trying to, I just try to avoid it, and I'm going to just go back to base walking manually to restore my health. A fight is kind of breaking out under my mid lane inhibitor. Nami is stuck on 1 HP. Shyvana is running for the hills as well. Kayle, in a little bit of a precarious position, stuck underneath the tower, gets engaged on, does ulti to save her own life. Lee Sin once again takes a very poor Q. Draven is trying to fight us, but unfortunately for me, I can't finish off the kill quite yet. Draven is running for the hills, and we don't want to chase in too deep, because if I continue chasing Zoe, there's always a chance I get bubbled, and when that happens, I'm basically gonna get one shot by her. So I don't want to take the risk of chasing the Zoe. But yeah. So here, I'm trying to start the Baron because Lee Sin is dead and Maokai is dead as well. Now Gragas is trying to run interference, which he does, and he actually manages to get us low enough, as well as the Draven out, to kind of dissuade the Baron. I'm going to flash away from the Zoe, who's going to kill me instantly if I don't. Brand actually combos the Zoe very nicely and gets the kill, but unfortunately all of us are way too low to do the Dragon, especially with Lee Sin, do the Baron, sorry, especially with Lee Sin alive. Now the enemy team is 1 dragon away from getting Dragon, so courtesy of our Shyvana losing both of the dragons to the Lee Sin, because she can't smite. Lee Sin now kills the Kayle, who has overstayed at the Baron area for no good reason. And now Lee Sin is trying to go in onto Brand. Brand gets a nice combo on Lee Sin. Lee Sin goes in very deep again. Shyvana is able to CC him for long enough for me to finish him off. I actually go Legendary. I'm not 12, 1, and 5 with more gold than anyone on the enemy team. But this is where kind of the issues of Ezreal kind of really come into play, which is that Ezreal, aside from not really being a good wave clearer, is also a champion that falls off pretty hard in the late game. So now we're still, like, you could probably still say we're in kind of the mid game phase where Ezreal is still okay, but when the game goes for too long, Ezreal just begins to fall off. Now you could argue that Draven also falls off, but honestly I feel that Ezreal falls off worse than Draven, ironically enough, because I think that Draven actually is not even as bad as Ezreal, especially if you're not feeding. Like, if you're doing fine like this Draven, he's 9 and 3, so I think that Ezreal falls off harder than Draven. But anyways, my whole team gets obliterated at the Dragon area, and once again, I'm gonna have to run away. Now one of the strengths of Ezreal is kind of this, which is that you're kind of really safe because you're always in the back line, unless you choose to Arcane Shift forward, but if not, you're always in the back line and you are always kind of safe. So you will have a lot of instances like this where your team kind of loses a fight and just all dies, but you yourself are kind of fine. Like, you can see I'm still alive, but in some cases they're not really too much of a point. So here Maokai tries to go in on me, so does Gragas, but I'm able to hit the QSS so that I don't get CC'd by by the rest of the follow-up CC after the root. They still get the tower though, so I'm just going to try my best. Lee Sin somehow decides to take the Q when I like still have my Arcane Shift, and kind of brought him into the Nexus if Nami didn't actually disrupt him. Now the enemy team takes a really bad fight here. I exhaust the Draven. Gragas is now running for the hills. I'm hitting my Qs onto him. He's getting a little bit slowed down. I get a shutdown onto Draven. However, Gragas looks like he's probably going to be able to escape. I don't think we can really fight him. So I'm just going to go for the... I was going to say I'm going to go for the wave, but Nami is actually going for it. So I'm going to push mid wave instead. Here, of course, we are building towards the Death's Dance. Death's Dance in this game, of course, does work to counter Lee Sin and Draven especially. But in this particular game, there is a lot of magic damage in the form of like Zoe and Gragas. So, like, technically speaking, like, if I were to go defensive items, Maw would also really be good. And honestly, in like a situation where I can go for both Maw and Death's Dance, I would definitely choose Maw over Death's Dance. Firstly, because Zoe seems to be like the biggest problem for me, and Gragas is a pretty big problem as well. And also because Maw gives like better stats in general, especially when Death's Dance gives like a debuff in terms of the passive when it comes to ranged champions. So I would generally just choose the Maw over the Death's Dance, but you know, we're kind of making a video to feature the top build, and even though I don't quite understand it, I'm just going to you know, cover it anyways and kind of just see how it works. So when we complete it, we have completed it, so we can kind of see, like, you know, if it is actually helpful. We can take a little bit more note of that, and we'll see if either part of the passive is useful. So here, a kind of skirmish is kind of breaking out. I'm just kind of just walking away because I don't really particularly want to fight now. For some reason, Maokai is able to get off a relatively good engage. I'm pinging my team to retreat because it's really not a good idea to fight. We need to clear the wave at top. Kill actually ends up going to clear the wave at top, but in the meantime, the rest of my team is dying. Thankfully, Gragas is able to whack me toward my base instead of away from it. Otherwise, I might be dead as well. Kayle has to pop the ulti to save herself. Now, Draven really overextended. I exhaust him and like hop the wall, kill him instantly. Zoe just one-shots me, but really nice bubble by the Nami to land it on the spot that we all know Zoe's gonna go back on. Really good play by the Nami, and I end up dying and giving my shutdown over to the Zoe, who is already incredibly fed, so that is not very good news whatsoever. So here we have a pretty major issue, which is basically this wave. Now this wave has super minions pushing in, so Baron is always going to be a problem for us since the enemy team can easily go to Baron. Now, speaking of objectives, Elder Dragon has actually spawned and the enemy team is trying to do it. I guess Maokai and Lee Sin are not, because Lee Sin is busy killing Lee Sin, and Maokai is busy actually killing the Kayle. And Kayle is losing 1v1 to Maokai. She doesn't do damage to Maokai, or not enough, and she goes down. Now, Shyvana and Bran are now have respawned, and they are in the general Elder Dragon area, but they get chased away pretty much by Lee Sin and Maokai, which I'm not quite sure why. Anyways, the enemy team has now reached the Elder Dragon, and they're now definitely doing the Elder Dragon, but Shyvana doesn't even look like she wants to try to contest it or try to steal it with Smite, so she's just basically just AFK farming camps, which is not very useful at all. Enemy team picks up the Elder Dragon, and it's a very sticky situation for us. You know, as a whole. So now we're trying our best to defend the base. Maokai flashes in for an engage. I'm just focusing him since he's really the only target I can hit easily. I get hit by both parts of Draven ulti. I'm really close to dying to Elder, so I'm going to have to run back to the base. And here you can see the Death's Dance passive coming in to heal me up a little bit. But in this case, I was already in the base, so it's not really that helpful if you really think about it. Here I struggling to clear the wave before they can, you know, before they can get the tower. Now here, Zoe, one Zoe auto does like half of my health, by the way, with the Elder buff, so that's kind of bonkers. Like, if Zoe hits any kind of spell on me, I'm just instantly dead. If she hits an E on me, like, I'm just gonna die just from probably an E into auto attack or something like that, but if she like lands EQ, I'm just dead instantly for sure. Yeah, so it's kind of a really tough spot for us. Enemy team still has a minute of Elder, so they're likely to try to force Baron, because that's definitely the move here. I'm taking Elder and getting Baron off of that Elder. And here I actually spot some enemy nearby, like Lee Sin is here, so I'm actually just hiding in this bush to try to see if Lee Sin overextends for the Shyvana. Yeah, he does have a track record of doing that. Brand even kind of baits him a little bit, but Maokai ulti comes in, so I'm gonna have to hop away. I don't want to get rooted by the Maokai ulti. Yeah, this looks like an okay fight for my team because we have 4 people here, but Gragas and Draven are in mid. However, the issue is that our inhibitor, our respawn inhibitor is dying, and it did just die here, so yeah, the problem of top lane is always going to be a problem because we could stop the minions from killing the inhibitor, which is probably a poor macro move. And while we're busy clearing the minions here, the enemy team takes the mid lane tower as well. So now we have another problem. Maokai nearly one-shots me. I go unstoppable with the QSS. I'm going to try to run away, get off a ulti across the 3 people, and I'll quickly run to base to respawn. Now Lee Sin again kind of overextends and gets shut down by me, which not very relevant anymore for the goal because I'm already at full build. And yeah, so honestly, you can see that in this match, there's not a lot of Death's Dance value, like whether it be the Cauterize passive or just the regen, you know, health passive. Like, it just doesn't really seem all that useful in Ezreal, which is kind of what I expected. So I'm not sure why at a certain point in time, like, all of the top Ezreals were building Death's Dance. I really didn't think it made sense, so I thought I'll just try it out for myself. And after playtesting it for a couple of games, you can kind of see that my basic conclusion is that Death's Dance on Ezreal doesn't quite make sense. So here I'm in a 1v1 against the Gragas. Gragas, of course, already used out. Nearly just one-shot me there with the Q. But yeah, I mean, Death doesn't even work on AP damage, so there's nothing to do with Death's Dance there. I did get a bit of regen there after I killed him, which did of course help me not just being one tickle away from dying. But yeah, so I'm going to use my ult to try to wave clear the top lane, and you know, double wave of super minions is stacking up in the mid lane as well. 3 people are going to clear that, and I'm just going to focus on clearing this top lane. As I said, I don't really need the goal, but of course somebody needs to clear the top lane. And I'm kind of just taking that job for myself. Honestly, probably, like, I don't know, maybe Kill could be clearing the lane so that I can join the team for fights, because if no one, like, clears the lane, the minions are just going to end the game. And, like, if my team doesn't fight with me, they're probably going to lose the fight, because I have the most damage on the team. I'm, like, 18-2-10 at this point with 22k gold, which is, like, you know, 10k gold higher than, like, or 8k gold higher than, like, Shyvana and, like, Nami, for example. So now my whole team is just dying here. Only Brand and myself are left alive, which is kind of the problem that we always expected to happen. Just the fact that Ezreal will not really die in fights, but like, he can't really carry the fights himself, and like, you know, in the late game he just really can't. So I actually sell my Death's Dance because I'm thinking like it's kind of useless. I sell my Death's Dance and I actually get the Riftmaker instead. Here I try to ult to clear the wave as well as do a little bit of chip damage onto the enemies. But yeah, it's kind of over here because Ezreal can't wave clear, so all the waves are coming in. Maokai outzones me away, and we do end up losing the game. But honestly, I still think we as a, you know, champion perform very well. So I still think it's a good gameplay to showcase. But I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.